I've been doing cardistry for over 15 years at this point, and I've learned a lot along the way. So we asked you guys to send in your top beginner cardistry questions, and we honestly got a really good response. There's a lot of good questions here, and whether you've been doing cardistry for a few years or just a few days, there's a lot of value I think you can get out of these. So I'm excited to jump into them, so let's do it. All right, so the first question is, how do you condition your hands to not sweat when using cards? That's a really good question because sweaty hands make cardistry very difficult, particularly in some areas of the world where it's just really warm and hot and humid all the time. And it's pretty tough. There's not really a great way I know to help your hands from not sweating. I would say the biggest thing is to make sure you're washing your hands. So if you don't wash your hands before you use a deck of cards, all of the dirt and grime and oil that's on your hands already easily transfers over to the cards, right? Because it is paper. It will absorb bits of that dirt and oil and moisture that's already on your hands. Because over time, if you don't wash your hands before you're using your cards, you will get these dots of dirt that appear sort of on the borders of the deck. And it kind of makes the deck look gross and feel gross. So I don't always do it every time, but certainly if I've eaten recently or if I've been outside or if I'm a little sweaty or if it's hot, I'll definitely make sure to wash my hands before using a deck of cards. So if you get naturally sweaty hands, you might just need to wash your hands more often. Or if you live in an area of the world where it's really hot and humid all the time, you might just need to wash your hands more often. But it's hard to prevent your body from sweating in a way. Some people will sweat more than others, but washing your hands is one way that you can help with that at least. All right, so getting to the next one here. What is the absolute hardest move to learn? There are some pretty tough cardistry moves. Cardistry is hard anyways, but there are some specifically very difficult moves to do out there. Whether a move's hard or not is a bit subjective, but I will say that there are some moves like the one-handed Triforce by Ryoma that I typically think of as being one of the harder moves. I can make one triangle in my hand, and that's about as much as I can do. So imagine now making 3 more triangles in just one hand. Pretty difficult. There's not a lot of people that can do that move. There's some other moves that are tough too. It take a really long time. There's the anti-pharaoh, which is you're kind of doing this motion here. I'm, again, not very good at it, but perhaps you can maybe see some of the cards start to split off there. And you're essentially doing, the goal of that move is to get the cards into the pharaoh structure. So like that, how the cards are interwoven one after the other, but without having to do what I just did, which was split the cards up first. So actually getting a clean anti-pharaoh is pretty difficult to do. It's good to, you can go into, yeah, there's my anti-pharaoh, not very good. I will not be teaching that one, but you can go into a few other moves like Bloom from there. Packet wise, there is some pretty difficult packet cuts. I would say Jackson 5, the full Jackson 5 routine / cut by Dan and Dave is pretty crazy. If you're not familiar with that move, it takes like a minute to do the entire move. There's like 5 different phases. They taught it in the trilogy a while back, and it ends with this display that you're using your chin to break off a packet with. It's really cool, but it's really difficult to actually do the full thing all in one go. So yeah, those are some hard cardistry moves. And then quick side note before we jump into this next question here, just wanted to say that our Suit Yourself hats are now available. So one I'm wearing right here says Suit Yourself on the front, and then it's got the 4 suits on the back there. So pretty cool and love how they turned out. So there's a link in bio for those if you want to check them out. But jumping into the next question here, what are underrated tips for people with smaller hands? Not tiny, just kind of small. So this is kind of a hot topic in cardistry these days, I would say. It is probably the most common comment that we get or question that we get regarding, can I do this move with small hands, or simply saying, I can't do this move, I have small hands. And while I do think certainly having small hands will make some moves more difficult, I don't think there's a lot of moves that you just cannot do because you have small hands. The comparison that I like to use is, it's kind of like a tall person. Say you take someone who's 7 foot tall and they say, I can't touch my toes because I'm too tall. And, you know, it certainly doesn't help touching your toes if you're really tall, right? But you got to remember that in your hand are a bunch of muscles and tendons, and they're simply not used to, especially when you start off cardistry, they're simply not used to all of these weird grips and movements. And like, why would I naturally be able to hold something like this in my hands? It's a weird movement. We're used to holding utensils or pens or something with a large handle. So it takes some time for the muscles and tendons within your hand to strengthen and to stretch out to be able to comfortably move your hands in specific ways. So I know that mantra, for example, is, let's see if I can do it. Ooh, not a great mantra, but mantra is one of those moves that can be difficult with one hand. But again, I wouldn't say that it's impossible. You know, I am someone who has probably larger hands, but I've been with cardists at conventions where they say they'll have small hands and they can't do a move, and they'll ask to compare their hand size to mine, and it's not much different. You know, it's just slightly off. So it does take a little more time. If you have smaller hands, you will have to put some extra effort into maybe stretching them, a little bit more patience to allow them to reach the full capacity and the flexibility and the strength that they might need to perform the moves. But I wouldn't say that it is a fully limiting factor in doing cardistry. I think it can be almost a mindset in a little bit that people will say, I have small hands, therefore I can't do this move. But it's more so just, I have small hands, so it'll just take me a little longer to do this move. So I wouldn't let it stop you from doing anything. There are tons of examples of cardists who have small hands who are absolutely incredible. I mean, even just at CardistryCon this year, there's an 11-year-old Ari with very tiny hands just crushing it. So there's a lot of people out there who have small hands that do very, very, very good cardistry. So don't let that stop you. I know it's more difficult and it'll take more time, but great question. I'm going to dive probably deeper into that in a future video too. All right. And then diving into the next question here. This is a fun one. How do you remember all of the tricks that you do? That's super interesting to think about. There's kind of two ways I guess you could think about that. There's how do I remember to actually perform and do the tricks? And then there's how do I remember which tricks I know how to do? So as far as actually performing and actually doing the cardistry, I mean, there's not even a lot of active memory going on there. It's muscle memory. That's why I can have a conversation, talk to you guys, talk to someone else, watch a movie, do something while I'm shuffling cards, because I'm not actually actively thinking about what I'm doing with my hands right now. I can sort of start a motion, right? So say I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm gonna do prequel, and then I just kind of start it. I just get into it, and I can focus on something else. I can look around and, oh, there you go, I finished the move, right? So I won't get into really the kind of anatomy of how muscle memory works and the neuroscience of it all. I don't really know much about that, although that would be pretty interesting to look into. But then how do I actually remember which moves I know how to do? And that's a good question. For original moves that I have, I often keep a folder in my phone of just videos. I'll record myself doing a move, and then I'll toss it into my ideas folder. In general, how do I remember which moves I know how to do? There's certainly moves that I just kind of learned how to do and forgot that I even know how to do them. There's plenty of times that I'll see someone do a move and I haven't thought about it in a long time, but I learned it a few years ago, and I'm like, oh, I know how to do that move. I remember how to do that move. And it might take me a minute to kind of dust the cobwebs off a little bit and get going back into it, how to do it. But it kind of sticks with you, right? The muscle memory is just kind of there. And then actually remembering how to do them. Sometimes I'll take videos for the original moves, but oftentimes it's just kind of whether I can remember what move it was that I've learned or which ones I know how to do, or maybe I'll look back at old videos that I have of myself doing some moves, or I'll look back on the trilogy, for example. I think I've learned everything on the trilogy at some point. I may be pretty rusty with some of them, but yeah, that's a really good question. You could, if you're starting off with cardistry, you'll probably remember which ones you know how to do, but I would just take some videos of yourself just doing the moves and put them in a little folder on your phone if you want to make sure you remember what moves you've learned. All right, what's the order of tricks to learn? So I'm assuming that you're a beginner here and that you're wondering what are sort of the best moves to learn starting off as a beginner. I think there's kind of two approaches I like to take. I think you should learn what's very easy. So when you start off, just learn the easiest possible moves. If you're starting off, I would recommend looking at our short form accounts, so either Instagram or TikTok, and we have our level 0 moves. So those would be anybody who's never even picked up a deck of cards should be able to pick up and learn those. They're really, really easy. And the point there is so that you can get an early win. So what do I mean by an early win? It takes a while to do cardistry. And if you pick up a deck of cards and try to learn Pandora right away, you're going to be discouraged. You're not going to be able to get it. It's going to be too tough. But if you pick up a deck of cards and you learn how to do the swing cut, that's pretty easy. That's not that hard to learn. That would be a level 0 move. You could learn this in a day easily. I say you can do a running swing cut within a day. You should be able to do this, and then you spend some time getting it down and getting it smooth, etc. But within the first day, you've already learned a little bit of cardistry, and you can say, hey, I know how to do this move. That's a win. Let's move on to the next one. Let's learn something else. Let's maybe add a swivel to start off, right? And that sort of gets into my next point here, which is I would try to progress with moves that are based on things you've already learned. So if you learn swing cut, maybe you learn a swivel cut next because it shares a lot of the mechanics. So you can combine them in a way where you do both. So maybe I do a swivel, then a swing, then maybe I do another swivel. And all of a sudden you're kind of getting in the rhythm of making a combo, sort of seeing how moves can flow together. And it can kind of help progress you along into more difficult moves, more impressive moves, because they're sort of these building blocks of moves that you've already learned. And it kind of gives you a boost and a head start in learning new moves. I would say also something else I like to focus on is what moves give sort of the most bang for your buck. But what I mean by that is what is something that is very easy to do, but looks very impressive to someone who doesn't know how to do it. So an example that I like to give, and this is honestly one of the first moves I would say that you should learn as a cardist, just starting cardistry, is the flicker shot. It's very simple. I'm just holding the card like this, and then I pinch together like so, and it shoots across like this, okay? And then you can kind of get down the rhythm of it, getting into the consistency, and it's really not that difficult. We have some tutorials on it, but it is a simple move that is still one of the first moves I show a spectator. I might start off and show them a cut. I might show them L cuts. L cuts are usually pretty good, but within the first 30 seconds, 60 seconds of showing someone cardistry, especially if they've never seen cardistry before, I'm going to show them a card shot of some kind. Okay. There's also, you can do hot shot as well. I'm not as good at that one, as you can see. So I normally do flicker shot, but some card shot out of your hand because it's really impressive and it's really easy to do. But yeah, if you're just starting off, learn something that is very easy, very fundamental that you can build other moves off of. Charlier cut is just always going to be a classic. So I would say Charlier cut. I would learn a shot. You can do flicker shot or you can do another shot, and then maybe swing cut, because you can build off of swing cut into other kinds of combos and such. So those are my recommendations. All right, so next question, not that new, but why do some say cardistry is a performance art? That's very cool. Let's see, so performance art. So let's break that down into performance and art. So the performance aspect of cardistry, I would say relatively self-explanatory, but it doesn't always have to be in front of a person, right? You might think performance is like, up on stage or in front of someone, or when you think of magic, you're doing it to someone in person. And that can be true with cardistry. You can certainly perform it for people. That's kind of what I was talking about with the last point, but it's performance within a video sense as well. I would say that cardistry and videography are very much intertwined. You almost can't have cardistry without videography. It's just the way that the art has spread and has been shared because it's so new. So there's performance in that sense as well. And it opens up all these avenues of performance within the video itself. So how do you want to display your art? How do you want to display your moves? How do you want to create a certain feel with your video? And what is the just overall performance that you are going for with your moves and with your video? And that comes through with a sense of style. Everybody, I would say, kind of develops their own natural style with cardistry. It's sort of a mix of a natural style that happens, also given who your influences are, and that sort of combines to create your own style. And that gives you your own unique kind of performance when you are doing cardistry. And then there's also the art part to all of this, right? There is the aspect that we create our own moves. There is moves that we develop. We create them on our own, and it is an expression of ourselves. It's an expression of our own creativity. And once again, this gets funneled through videography. So how I choose the location of a video, how I choose the cards that I use for the video, the lighting, the sound, the music, what I'm wearing, all of that goes into the art within cardistry. It's a very self-expressive endeavor. There's a lot of choices you are making as a cardist as to how you are expressing yourself. And you rarely find people expressing themselves through cardistry in the exact same way. There's certainly overlap, but there are so many variables between how you make the videos, how you present yourself, your style, your flow, your moves, your choices that you make, that makes it such a unique endeavor where you are sort of displaying something about your personality or about your creativity. So I would say it's that combination of your style and your personality that makes it a performance art, particularly through the medium of videography, which is how it's mostly shared these days. All right, and then I'll do one more question here. We got other questions, but I'll save them for some other videos too. But last one I'll get into it here is there any ability, just hard working? So I'm guessing you're kind of asking, is there this natural ability that can make someone better at cardistry, or is it purely just hard work? And that's a really good question too. I would say it's very much mostly hard work. I think the time and effort and how you practice and how consistent you are with cardistry and how much you push yourself both in learning and in creating, like your creativity, your style, your flow, all of that, how hard you push yourself and how hard you work, I think will line up really well with how good you are as a cardist. Cardistry is a difficult endeavor. It's a tough art form to really get down well and comfortably and smoothly, particularly if you want to be the best cardist alive, for example. It's going to take some time. And I think it's a little different from other things such as weightlifting, for example. If you're big into weightlifting, there's a huge genetic factor in that, like how your muscles grow, the connections of your muscles to different parts of your body is factors that you can't control. But I think with cardistry, there is less so of that. I think with any art form, there's going to be some natural factors. If you took two people who worked exactly the same, exactly as hard, there's going to be some who are just a little better and some who are maybe not as good. But I think that difference for cardistry is not that much, because it is just something where if you put in the time and effort, you will get smooth, you will get good, and you will be able to create some really good cardistry. So I would say mostly just hard work for that. I don't think there's much of a natural ability that separates the best cardists from the not so good cardists. I think it's pretty much just that the best cardists put in more time, put in more work, and put in more focused work too. This is kind of another topic to go into, but there's mindlessly practicing and then there's focused practicing. There's nothing wrong with either one. I think there's something beautiful about just mindlessly shuffling cards. It's this meditative aspect that makes cardistry so cool, but that's not going to exactly make you a crazy good cardist, right? If you want to become an incredible cardist, it will need to be focused work. You'll have to be thinking about the pain points of specific movements, thinking about how you can improve the transition here, or thinking about how you can angle it slightly differently so it looks a little better on camera. Things like that, where you're really focused on practicing and not just kind of mindlessly doing whatever, which again, totally fine either way. There's definitely no right or wrong. These days, I've even done more of the mindless shuffling myself. I've just kind of enjoyed that a bit more. But certainly early on, it was a lot of dedicated, focused practice that I was putting in daily. So yeah, that's that. I would say not too much in the natural ability, but just a lot of hard work, and you will absolutely get there. So cool. That's all I got for now. There are more questions actually that I want to get to, but I'll cut this short for now. I'll give it some time to hear what you guys think about this format. If you guys have other questions too, please leave them in the comments. That would be awesome. We will definitely get to those as well. There were some comments in here that I didn't even think that people would be curious about. So we're going to be doing more of these to hear from you guys and to help share our knowledge, right, with you guys. Like I've said, we've learned a lot from this, and it's awesome to be able to share it with people who are also interested in going down this journey. So yeah, that's all though for now. Thanks for watching. If you like the cards also that I'm using, they're available at the link in the bio. So happy shuffling.